Christopher Nolan is a filmmaker with a mind for engineering. He's obsessed with time, constructing stories that move simultaneously at different speeds, like the hour, minute, and second hands of a wristwatch. While his films often deal with heavy themes and complex protagonists, it's usually more interesting to talk about the shape of Nolan's stories than about their content. The Dark Knight and Inception are thrilling and technically innovative, but they're not quite as smart as they appear to be on the surface. His latest feature, which stars longtime collaborator Cillian Murphy as the theoretical physicist who led the Manhattan Project, employs all of his usual technical and structural tricks in the service of a story that is truly as complex as it is complicated. Like The Prestige, Dunkirk, and Memento, the story of Oppenheimer is conveyed via multiple intersecting temporalities. Nolan is kind enough to label the film's two narrative spans for us. Vision, a recollection of J. Robert Oppenheimer's life and career based on his testimony to a security clearance council in 1954. And Fusion, a counterpoint from the perspective of Admiral Lewis Strauss during his confirmation hearings to become Secretary of Commerce in 1959. Despite not always moving in a linear fashion, the interwoven accounts remain both logically and emotionally coherent, painting a portrait of controversial figure that is both sympathetic and damning. The two framing devices are not only courtroom dramas at hand here. The film is a trial, and just like the interrogation of Oppenheimer and Strauss, there is no real burden of proof. Nolan is playing both the prosecution and the defense. The trial isn't fair, he knows it, and he wants you to know. At its heart, Oppenheimer is about the terrifying transformation of theory into practice. The story introduces us to Robert as a young and ambitious scholar in the very new field of quantum physics. But like Albert Einstein before him, he is a theorist, not an engineer. How his research is applied is not his concern, or so he asserts, until the consequences of his work become impossible for any sane man to ignore. This theme seeps into other parts of his story, such as juxtaposition of his community's sympathies against his practical political agnosticism, or the reverberation of his irresponsible romantic affairs. How many degrees must exist between cause and effect, between ideation and execution, to assuage him of his guilt? Aside from being heady and profound, Oppenheimer is also much more fun than you might expect. Nolan keeps this massive monster moving at a steady, bracing pace. Though the relentless memento and wall-to-wall musical score can have a flattening effect, granting practically every scene equal gravity, it also never allows your attention to waver. At no point in Oppenheimer's 3-hour runtime does it feel safe to run to the bathroom. Urgent plot developments and character context unfold constantly, giving this epic biopic the grip of a murder mystery or a political thriller. And for a historical biopic about one of the most terrible events in recorded history, Oppenheimer is surprisingly funny. The playful Sorkiness banter between Cillian Murphy's Oppenheimer and Matt Damon's prickly General Leslie Groves is every bit as charming as the timeline-spanning romance of John David Washington and Robert Pattinson in Tent. Emily Blunt slays as Robert Island wild wife Kitty, a character whose minimal role in the film's first 2 hours is merely the wind-up for an Oscar-worthy uppercut. Nolan has assembled a huge cast of character actors consists of about half of Hollywood's white dudes, but it's a particular showcase for performers with creepy eyes and punchable faces. Murphy is haunting and nuanced as Oppenheimer, but all of the film's sharp performances, Robert Downey Jr. Lewis Strauss stands head and shoulders above. Downey plays Strauss as Oppenheimer's Bohr or Salieri, an insecure political operator whose obsession with the father of the atom bomb contains both sincere reverence and seething resentment. After a decade sealed in that Iron Man suit, Downey finally reasserts himself as a generation-defining talent, the reason we ever gave a shit about Tony Stark in the first place. Please like and subscribe to my channel and press the bell icon to get new video updates. Thank you.